Hello, welcome to Bennett's Bike Social. I'm Michael Mann, and you join me in this video to talk about accessories, both factory fitted accessories and aftermarket as well. I'm going to give you a top 5 accessories that will add value to your bike. Check it out. In terms of aftermarket accessories that might add a bit of value to your bike, then we've come up with the top 5. So let's start with the most common item that we tend to change. Yes, the exhaust. Long gone are the days where you can just simply swap an end can and gain 15 brake horsepower. Modern day exhausts, modern day systems are all designed, they're very complicated systems. They've got butterfly valves, they've got lambda sensors all over the place, and they help the manufacturers get performance but also pass all the emissions laws. Unfortunately, many of these clever engineering devices are pretty ugly and pretty large. Suzuki's GSX-R 1000 range will probably take the badge for that one. So that means, of course, that we all tend to rip them off and put something prettier and lighter on board. In fact, many manufacturers include an official aftermarket exhaust in their accessory pack anyway, and often tend to have promotions on it when you buy the bike new anyway. So a top brand aftermarket pipe, or indeed a full system, adds value to your bike, but of course only if you've got the original to help it through its MOT, of course. Don't forget though that your definition of not that noisy might be different to a prospective buyer, and if you've got a full system you might need to get that fueling sorting to allow for the restriction too. And then carbon fibre silencers, they might look cool but they don't crash particularly well, and then with age they're going to look a bit tatty. Number 2, to get the best out of your new exhaust, you're going to need a mapping module or an ignition reflash. So in many cases these work well on stock bikes too, because they can overcome fueling and ignition issues in the standard map to help them overcome those emissions tests. For example, some bikes will run rich fueling right when that noise test happens, because a rich fueled bike or rich running bike is often quieter. And there's no visible evidence of this being done, so if you're a buyer, make sure you ask to see the dyno graphs. Equally, as a seller, make sure you've got them available. So making one bike for all sizes of riders, or the way in which we ride it, different riding styles, is nigh on impossible. So manufacturers of course have to come to compromise with suspension. Most of the time that compromise is okay, but every now and again there's a bike that will come out that's not quite right for the way in which we ride it, or the damping's too soft, for example. The original Yamaha MT-09, MT-07, perfect examples of this. Most of those bikes had their suspension tweaked by experts. A lot of the latest top spec bikes come with electronically controlled suspension which adjusts the damping accordingly, and that makes it harder to modify unless you're going to do the entire system. The early versions of those systems are nowhere near as good as they are nowadays, and actually that might make the bike worth less. Again, another example would be probably BMW's ESA system from 15-20 years ago. Older bikes are likely to need their suspension changing, so look out for suspension kits, and shock absorbers are definitely worth seeking out. Although on sports bikes it might be a bit of a pointer that the bike has been raced. Like the suspension, the bike's screen is designed for the average rider, and if that's not you, you might find a bit of buffeting at high speeds, or problems for the pillion, or even both. On this bike it's adjustable, one hand, just turn the knob up and down, dead easy. Some bikes are worse than others, but generally speaking, a taller aftermarket screen will add a bit of value to your bike, so long as the original one is available too. And the same goes for aftermarket seats or even handlebars. If you were going to buy them anyway, then yes, they're going to add a bit of value, but again, make sure that the original ones are available. So factory fitted heated grips should be sold as standard on every bike, said every British motorcyclist ever. Even in the summer, with thin race gloves wrapped on a nice toasted set of grips is an absolute pleasure. But some systems are better than others. BMW have got a very, very good system. Honda's previous generation, perhaps not so much. But the key term here is factory fitted, because with aftermarket versions it's very easy to do it badly, leaving a battery draining, unreliable nightmare. And when one fails, and inevitably it will, you'll be left with one toasty hand and one cold one. Well, that brings us to a conclusion. I really hope you've learned something here today. It's been a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you for watching. If you've got any comments, fire them at us below. Hit that subscribe button and join us next time. Thanks again.